So tonight's topic is stereotypical thinking. What do we really know?
Wow.
So, Master Ravioli, as the Big Nose of London calls you, do you have any understanding of stereotypical thinking? Is it anything that you've heard of yourself?
I mean, I know like about stereotypes. I'm guessing like it would be to do with what is it sort of biased thinking then, or ignorant thinking, or maybe beliefs based on the characteristic, maybe like gender then, or age or race things. Like just kind of oversimplified as well, and often maybe biased views. I don't know, things like that. I mean, I'm just thinking of like stereotype. I'm just thinking of it must be to do with that. So yeah.
Okay, so you've give some things. So stereotypical thinking. I've brought up some information because I do have like an idea, an understanding of it, but I thought for our sakes and the audience starting from scratch, we'll start from scratch. So let's go to an article that I've found. So you think it's something to do with possibly biases?
I think like lack of knowledge, or like something a bias or something being oversimplified. Maybe sort of beliefs rooted in biases. Like within the gender or the race, things like that, and age, things like that. Like it very general thinking. It's not like detailed, or it doesn't look at micro points much. I guess oversimplification is something that is in my mind. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the information and see what that says, because that's interesting, the points that you've made.
Yeah, I don't actually know. Yeah, that'd be interesting, Lieutenant. I don't know much about it really.
Okay. Well, that's good, because, there's possibly a lot of people who are just sitting thinking, well, I've heard it, I've heard the words, but they've not possibly explored it fully. So we'll start from scratch. I've got an article here from the Britannica. I'm going to see if I can enlarge this.
Yeah, he's used the word, hasn't he? Oversimplified. That's a good word, I think.
Who has?
In there, on the first line of the Britannica.
Okay. So I'll read through it. Stereotypes in psychology. This is from the 31st of January 2026. Right, so, well, it's been edited then anyway. And it says stereotype in psychology, a fixed, oversimplified, and often biased belief about a group of people. Stereotypes are typically rationally unsupported generalizations, and once a person becomes accustomed to stereotypical thinking, he or she may not be able to see individuals for who they are. Stereotypes can legitimize hostility against a whole social group. In addition, because stereotypes are ingrained in the culture, people begin learning stereotypes during childhood. They tend to signal which social groups are presumably appropriate targets for relieving individual frustration. So that, well, it then goes into prejudice and then cognition. And, I think that might be moving away from stereotype and stereotypical thinking, which I want this to be about. So I don't know what you think of that thus far, but what I think so far is that there could be some inaccuracies there going off what I've heard and what I've come across along the way in life. But who knows, what I've come across might be wrong. So we will explore this. Hence, this is the series called Exploration. What do you think of that information thus far, Ravioli?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with it. Well, it's kind of how I understand it. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of how I think is about stereotype is written right in front of us. Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah, I mean, the oversimplification is something, and just rationally, are typically rationally unsupported generalizations. And once a person becomes accustomed to stereotypical thinking, he or she may not be able to see individuals for who they are. Yeah, yeah, that is what I've understood. To this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't add too much more to that. I mean, yeah, it's not a good thing. I don't think. I don't. That's maybe more of my opinion now, a subjective feeling on it. But
Yeah, I mean, when I think about stereotypical thinking, I also take into consideration how our brains, whether we like it or not, take in information and they look at patterns
yeah,
and they kind of compute that information a bit like a computer would, right? And they give us conclusions based on the data that it's got. Okay, so that is how we can develop a stereotype, if you want to call it that, right? Like a generalization, just going off the information that we've got. So, not necessarily from cultures, although going off what we saw in that description, like that is possible, like that would add to it. But I think where they originate from, where people first started making stereotypes, I think it's got to do with the brain and how it
yeah,
operates. And I think that going off what I've been learning about the anatomy and our brain, including the brain, our bodies are designed to try to survive, constantly try to survive. So, this is where I think there may be a positive side to stereotypical thinking. Like, if you're thinking certain things about a certain group of people based on the data that's gone into your brain and thus based on what you've experienced in life, right?
yeah,
It could be a lifesaver. Like, say, for example, here's a hypothetical one. Say you've come across a lot of articles and you've experienced it and you've witnessed it where youths around a certain age type who wear hoodies,
yeah,
form gangs, and go around causing trouble. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone wearing a hoodie is in a gang and goes around causing trouble, right? I
right,
wear a
yeah.
hoodie, I don't go anywhere. Okay,
I do.
but
So
yeah, but I mean, they're so comfortable, who wouldn't?
I
But
got one
like,
here. That's very. Hang on. All right, no, okay, sorry, no, I won't distract. No, I got a very cool one here. I was thinking of showing everyone.
okay, so like, you can have that information in your brain that you've got this certain age group who they wear hoodies, they've formed a gang, they go around causing trouble, and you've heard of it happening not just in your town but in other parts, right? So that's the only information that your brain's got. And so when you're walking along the street, you may be vulnerable, right?
Yeah,
And you see a group of, well, looking at their posture and everything, they appear to be young because they're standing up straight. They don't look like they've got a bad back or anything, so they can't be in their 40s or 50s or whatever. So they're young, they've got hoodies on, they're in a group, so automatically the brain sees a number of them dressed the same, looking the same. That's a bit like the gang. The gang is a group, okay?
yeah,
And they're on the opposite side, they're on the same side of the street as you, and they're just standing around
yeah,
randomly in the street and it's dark. So are they up to no good? Don't know. But to prevent you from being at risk, your brain tells you to cross the road.
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
the data that it's got. So you cross the road and you continue walking in the direction that you were. So you don't come into contact with them. You've kind of swerved to avoid them, right? And then you get past them and then you cross the road again back to the side of the street that you want to be on. And you continue and you're safe. Great. So that's where the stereotypical thinking may have potentially saved you from being in danger, because that could have been a group of youths, this specific group of youths that are going around causing trouble,
Yeah.
right? They could have actually caused you trouble, even stress and distress, because it's dark. They might have been wanting to like wind you up, like having a joke. They might not have actually
Yeah.
done anything to you physically, but that would be troublesome to you. That who knows how that could impact you, right? So that's where your stereotypical thinking could have actually been a good thing.
Okay. Yeah. In that example, yeah, I agree with what you. But
Yeah.
I think you
So
can go the other side of it though as well.
yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we've seen in the article that it seems to be painting stereotypical thinking as if it's a bad thing, because it says stereotypes can legitimize hostility against a whole social group. And it says that it's a fixed, oversimplified, and often biased belief about a group of people. Well, when people hear the word bias and oversimplified,
Yeah.
that typically we would think of as being a bad thing, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, you said that you think it's a bad thing, so that's why I'm presenting my
Well,
argument of where it can be a good thing.
I just think like I don't know, like how I kind of live. I don't know, something inside me. I don't know if it's the heart or the brain or a bit of both. Or I think I always try and treat everything kind of as individually as I can. Like every individual is unique, right? And I just try and think that way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then attached to that, I try and think, well, how would I like to be treated? I try and then do that to other people. I try every day to like just try that. That's just, I know it sounds quite simple, but that's basically it for me. Yeah, I don't know, but there are a few things here in the chat, Lieutenant. Can I read them? There's a couple of interesting comments.
Yeah, sure.
So Tina6936 says it goes back to Stone Age, where people, family groups, needed to weigh a stranger up in milliseconds, and then Joel says, yes, in the jungle, stereotypes can be useful. And Tina said, yes, an instinctual self-preservation mechanism. Yeah, you got, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the situation where it can be a good thing, like you've got stereotypical thinking, where it can prevent you from being at risk of any danger. Okay. So I want to know how it actually happens, because I have this idea that, your brain takes in the information and develops a stereotype. But I mean, that's oversimplified, isn't it? So,
I
sorry,
guess
go
it's
ahead.
like you said, you say patterns. Maybe it formulates sequences and patterns, right? And it just falls into a flow, and it's hard to maybe break that flow, and maybe that's why the stereotype is like it's a lot easier to just go with it than then start to critique or challenge it. Like it's easier to just fall into the energy of it. Like you said, you've seen all these people in hoodies, or so you avoid them out of numerous past experiences of trouble, name calling, or potential. So like you kind of weigh up quick, like you you kind of make a probability kind of guess, and it's just maybe the brain is easier to just go with it than to question it and to reverse that flow. I don't know if that's
Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing is, if your brain's automatically doing this, then the only way that you will be able to manage this is by being mindful about your thoughts and your thought processes, and therefore doing what you were saying that you do, where you try to keep in mind that everyone's an individual and they might not be part of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about managing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But those stereotypes would still be in your mind somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
So
Yeah, I think they are there. They don't go, do they? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, they're sort of in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so your brain's already developed them that being the case. So it
Yeah.
sounds like the brain's like going faster than the speed of light, sort of thing.
Yeah, in a way,
Obviously,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the actual speed that it works at, right? But certainly quicker than we are at consciously being mindful. Because to be mindful, it's an action, isn't it? You've got to actually be proactive. You're aware that this happens in the brain, and you're aware of the negatives that can come with that if that is in the driving seat and causing you to make decisions that are seemingly, at the very least, irrational. So, are in other words, are basically leading to a discrimination, and
Yeah.
you find out that that's unjust. So, basically, you've got this stereotype. You've then chosen to be mindful about that, right? So you take that information on board that the brain's presenting you with, and then you're managing what you do with that information. Do you then just go straight to, oh well, I'm going to discriminate against that person by not going over there just in case I'm put at risk, right? What may be deemed as positive discrimination because you're it could be a safeguarding issue, right? So
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
be keeping yourself safe, right? But then that person's feeling terrible and they've actually not done anything wrong. So you've got to weigh up the pros and cons, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is this irrational or rational? Is this appropriate or inappropriate? Is this justifiable or injustifiable? I'm trying to find other words. I feel as though there's another word.
It is quite like, yeah, and it's very important, this topic, Lieutenant, and it's quite involved too. And it would help, yeah, I mean, every human would probably benefit from thinking about it, I've never really thought about it in this detail before.
Yeah.
But it's a bit, yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you could be missing out, yeah, like if you shun a group of people, or you think, on probabilities or balance, or if it is a defense mechanism, but you could miss a life-changing friendship, or receive some brilliant guidance or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't benefit if you don't go over, and then you think the danger it does as you go on with your life, treating people in that way and such. Yeah, it is, but that is interesting, that bit before though, like you said, like, I mean, it is in there. It's in the back of the mind somewhere, and it is strange, yeah. Why does it have to exist at all? When you think, as you said about that group of people wearing the hoodies, or yeah, why is it in there? Why is that idea even there? Yeah, no, sure. Sorry, Lieutenant. I've never really thought about it like this before, but yeah, I wish I could. I wish I had something else to say.
That's okay. I mean, we're yet to explore this a bit further. What the reason why I've come to this topic, why I've brought this to tonight's stream, is I've recently joined this little amateur drama group, right, which is brilliant for me for getting me out and having fun and doing something I enjoy and meeting people, right, and it's great for my confidence. But when I joined that, last week on Wednesday. I went to the second class yesterday. It was amazing. I remembered back in 2017, I joined a drama group, and one of the sessions was about having a load of items put on the floor, and everyone in the group took so many items, and they had a pen and a piece of paper, and they developed a character based on the items that they'd picked up. So it was like a photo of some people like from the olden days. So this individual had that in the handbag. What kind of an individual? What was their age group? What kind of music do you think they were into? What did they work? Did they not work? Did they have any health problems? And everything that everyone came up with was based on stereotypes, like what they would imagine someone who had this certain item in their bag, in their possession, would be like. And it was all down to stereotypical thinking. And it wasn't anything like discriminatory or anything like that. It was just, being creative with what information is in the brain and developing a character. Yeah. And then, of course, we then had to improvise and perform that character that we developed. So, that was great. But what I took away from that, because obviously it was a theatre studies course, it wasn't supposed to be therapy or anything like that. It was supposed to be just something fun to do back in 2017 when I did that. But it was facilitated at a recovery college. The NHS have these recovery colleges for mental health service users, right? So it's where you go and get self-help groups, peer support groups, and all the rest of it. And what I noticed about that others in the group hadn't noticed, was the fact that it proved stereotypical thinking. And I thought this would actually be good to host a workshop about amongst like peers, So I developed this little thing where, I was making all of these points about stereotypical thinking to some of my peers for a couple of hours in one of the rooms in the recovery college, because they give you an opportunity to explore your own understanding of things as part of your recovery. It's really brilliant how the NHS are doing that, like in the mental health sector.
That sounds quite clever.
Yeah. So I was reminded of. Sorry, I'll just finish. I will land.
Okay, sorry.
I was just reminded of that when I joined this drama group that I've joined recently, and I thought I'll bring this to the table and we can explore it even further, because I don't know if I've got like all of the information in my head correctly, and I certainly couldn't like articulate it that well. So that's the reason why I want to explore it. But also I think, it can benefit everyone, like you say, to become more aware of these things.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think,
where it can be a good thing, where it can be a negative, and we need to manage ourselves better so as to not like discriminate against people unjustly, shall we say.
I wish at schools and stuff as well. Imagine that, A level to GCSE or before, right? I mean,
smooth moderator, smooth moderator, smooth moderator.